Happy Wednesday. That's what I get for doing something different. Hi, I'm Coach Yolanda, international spiritual life coach, owner of Evolving Spirit Wellness. And we don't usually meet on a Wednesday unless it's Work It Wellness Wednesday. But there is so much to talk about in this age range that we are currently in, that I thought it was necessary for us to take some time with a particular span of time in the 21 to 35-year age range. And that is Saturn Return. We'll talk a little bit about what that is, how it shows up, and how you can learn from this time period in your life, whether you are currently experiencing this Saturn return or it's in your past. There's always something to learn. Hi, beloved. Hey, Shy Tam. How you doing? I am so grateful. Any single time that I get to do this, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for your presence. I'm grateful for your support. Today was a day, but we are here. Hello, my love. How are you? How are you? Unbeknownst to y'all, I got my shoes off, I got my pants off. Like, we are going to relax. It's the middle of the week. We are almost at the end of this blessed month. I don't know about y'all, but August, I can say goodbye. And I'm a summer girl. I don't want to say goodbye to the summer, but I'm ready to say goodbye to August. I'm ready to see what September has for me. I'm ready to see how much growth I have managed to have in my life, because life is lifing right about now, which is another reason why I am excited to talk about this short span of time that has such a significant impact on our lives. And so we've been doing inner child healing for the year of 2023. We started with preconception. We started in January with preconception. We've gone all the way up to this developmental stage, which is the 21 to 35-year-old stage. Even if you are not currently in this stage, I want us to expand our awareness about what inner child healing really is. It's something that you will, if you're brave enough, do across your lifespan. A lot of times people think inner child healing is just looking just at your childhood when you were a little kid to find out why you're messed up, or who didn't do what they were supposed to do, or, some justification for why we are the way we are. Inner child healing is really about looking at the level of experience that you've had in that time period, looking at your maturity level, looking at your exposure, old behaviors, reactions, all of those things that may still be going on for you presently that are connected to things that happened in the past. And so, if you think about even a 35-year-old, even a 52-year-old, in many ways is childlike. There are things that I have yet to experience, or I haven't experienced them as a 52-year-old. There are things I have not been exposed to. There are responses that I still have. So, in many ways, the inner child that I'm healing can be present day healing. So, think of the childlike wonder, the childlike innocence that all of us will have until we leave this earth. You don't know what tomorrow has for you. You don't know how you're going to process information. You don't know how you're going to approach particular things. You don't know what you're going to experience or what you are going to be exposed to. So, in many ways, in this right now moment, we are all like children because we have no idea who is going to be responsible for us. We have no idea how things are going to impact us and how we're going to react. And so when we talk about inner child healing, we don't just look at what happened when we were 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. We're looking at our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, and even beyond. So as we continue on through the year, we're going to be looking at the next developmental stage, which is beyond, for many of us, beyond where we are. But isn't it a good thing to know and anticipate what is coming? And so on Sunday, when I talked about this live, when we're going to talk about the Saturn return, for those of you who are not in your 20s and your 30s, go back to the year that you turned 27, 28, 29. And so when we talk about Saturn return, we're actually talking about the actual planet of Saturn, with the rings. We're talking about that particular planet and where its position was when you were born. And Saturn takes 27, 28, sometimes 30 years to return back to that position in the sky. Now, I am not an astrologist and I am not someone that is well versed in astrology, but I know what I know and I read what I can read. And I'm so interested in how we are connected to nature and the planets, and everything around us has a significance. And so, as we're talking, we can't talk about the 21 to 35 developmental age stage if we don't talk about Saturn return. We cannot, which is why we're meeting on a Wednesday. And so, for those of you who really want to take a deep dive, I can recommend someone that I know personally who is well versed in astrology, but you can also use your Googles and calculate when your Saturn return was. I did mine last night. And so you need to know, of course, your date of birth, the exact time of day or night that you were born, and the exact location, the city and state that you were born in. Get as close as you can, particularly with the time. Don't waffle with that. If you don't know what time you were born and if you don't have your birth certificate, it should be on your birth certificate. That information is essential. And you can do a lot of things. You can get your birth chart done, but you can also calculate when Saturn returned all the way back to the same position it was in when you were born. Like I said, I did mine last night. So now here's the other thing. You get 3 Saturn returns if you're lucky in your lifetime. You get one in your 20s to 30s. You get your second when you're like in your 50s, and then your third in your 80s. We're talking about the first one, the first Saturn return. So from the time you were born to the time that Saturn returned to the exact position that it was in when you were born, it could be somewhere between 27 to 30 years. For me, it was 29 years. It took 29 years for Saturn to return back to that position. So on May 22nd, 2000, that is when I began my Saturn return. And that period can last for 3 years. So you can be in this particular energy for 3 years. I know you know all of those. I know you know. And so do your maths, get your Googles on, see. I don't have any particular site that I would recommend. Um, Follow your heart. Follow your heart. So again, I know when my Saturn return started, May 26, 2000. And when I looked at that information, I was like, yep, that's when stuff started to get real for me. And why is that a significant point in time? Why is the Saturn return a significant point in time? Because it is the point in time where you literally will start to break away from old paradigms. Literally, you break away from your family structure. You're an adult, maybe you're 27, 28, 29. You've completed some of your education, perhaps. Maybe you're thinking about getting into serious relationships like marriage, getting into your career. It really is a crossroads. It's a transitional phase because Saturn holds energy connected to each and every single one of us. Responsibility, accountability. You are learning in ways that you have never learned before. That is why this time period is so significant. And for many people, it feels like an upheaval of your life. It can feel like chaos. It can feel like you don't know who you are. You can't seem to get things right in your life, or the things that you thought that you knew all seem to crumble. And so for those of us of a particular age, you might want to do those calculations for your first Saturn return and for the second. So I know that my second will happen in July of 2029. So I'm going to prepare for that time period. But right now we're talking about the first one. When I say it is a transitional phase, I mean things can start to unravel in your life where you were so sure that this was the path that you were going to be on, and stuff just seems to start to fall away. Now, when you're in it, you may not know that it's a lesson. You may not know that it's good for you. You may not know that it is actually going to be one of the greatest transformations of your life. It can feel like I did all of that work, in my early 20s to build my life to a particular point, and now it just seems to be falling apart. It's interesting for me now because I have two children who are in the midst of this transitional phase. And boy, let me tell you, I can't say what it is doing for them because I'm not experiencing it in the way that they are, but watching it is something to behold, particularly because we love our children. We want the best for them, but we also know that they have to find their own way. They have to create their own path. And so watching them go through challenges and not always understanding why life is starting to change in such a rapid way. Now, when I said that Saturn is a slow planet, it is a slow planet. Again, we can stay in our Saturn return up to 3 years because it takes a lot to pull all of that stuff away that we've built up. A lot of people in this time period experience severe breakups in their relationships. Whether you're married or you're single or you're in a committed relationship, this might be the time where it is tested. This might be the time where things start to get real. This may be the time when you start to look at your partner in a different way because you are becoming different. You are thinking differently. And because for many of us, we will, align ourselves with people who might be a similar age. Imagine two people going through a Saturn return at the same time and they're in a committed relationship. It's rough. It can be chaotic, it can be rough. But if you are more aware of what's going on, then you may be better able to handle. And I know on Sunday, one of the viewers were they said that they were just coming out of their Saturn return. I wonder if she knows that that can last for a period of up to 3 years. It is also connected to your third eye energy center, this developmental stage. The entire developmental stage, 21 to 35, is connected to the third eye because your vision of yourself, the dreams, the hopes, all of those things that have a spiritual connotation because they may not be in your physical reality, it is also connected to this developmental stage. So imagine that you have done all of this work to educate yourself, to build yourself up in a career, and then you get in it and it doesn't fulfill you in the way that you thought it was going to fulfill you. You start to feel like, did I make a mistake? Do I not know who I am? Am I confused? It could feel like everyone else is against you. So, for those of us who are out of this developmental stage, go back and look. Now, for me, this is the sharing time. May of 2000, I had just had my youngest child. My third child had just been diagnosed with autism, so we were dealing with that. Let's see what else was going on. Oh, I had decided after my fourth child, as much as I wanted to have more children, I really had to make a decision that motherhood was going to have to end for me. And that was such a gut wrenching decision. I wish someone had told me how it was going to break me emotionally, even though it was a conscious decision where I said, listen, baby, you done had four babies in rapid succession. So by the time I was 29, I had four babies. I was married and I wanted to have more babies, but the relationship just wasn't going to be sustainable if we had any more children, particularly because we had a child with special needs. And so I had to make a decision to end, having children. I had to make that decision. And it was not an easy decision, even though I knew it was the right thing to do. It still, it hurt me mentally and emotionally as a woman. And even now, when I think about that time period, this was, I think, one of the most depressed times of my life because no one really explained what happens to you emotionally when your body is ending something that it naturally knows how to do. It was never difficult for me to have children, to conceive children. And so I'm making the decision to end that. It was devastating. It was really, really difficult because a lot of my identity was tied with being a mother. And so if that's ending for me, who am I? And I also think it was the beginning stages of the breakdown in my marriage. Again, we had a child with special needs, and we had very different opinions about what that was going to look like and how we were going to educate this child and who was going to be responsible for educating him, and our hopes and dreams for him. He's our only son. Now they have to change. So that third eye vision that we had for all of our children, it started to look drastically different. Our this was our only son, and we were going to have these dreams, and he was going to be an athlete, and he was going to do all of the things that parents think when they have a little boy. And now we're being told those things are not going to be realized. This child is going to have significant needs. You're going to have to set things up for him for his entire life. And things started to unravel. I had no idea the impact that having a child with special needs was going to have on my entire family, my other three children, and my husband at the time. And so I didn't know anything about Saturn Return when I was 29, but I wish I had. I don't know what I would have done to prepare, but certainly that started a fracture in my identity, who I thought I was, what I thought my life was going to look like. My marriage only lasted 6 years after this time period. So technically, if I started in 2000 and that Saturn return didn't end into 2003, my marriage only lasted 3 years after that and probably started to break down before that. And so for many of us, this time period comes with a lot of destruction and disruptive things in the things that we envisioned. I thought I was going to be married forever. I thought I was going to have more children. I thought, and now the vision has changed. And so, if you are willing to share in the comments, if you've done your calculations and you have an idea of when your Saturn return started, how old you were, and what was going on, I know Marissa said on Sunday, absolute chaos started in her life. So, look at 27, 28, 29, 30. What was going on for you? And can you look back at it differently to support you in telling a different story about your life? I now know what I know, so I can tell the story differently about what was going on for me as I was approaching 30. I used to have a story, but I hated my 30s. I got divorced in my 30s, and this was going on, and now I'm a single mother, and my 30s was a horrible time. With the information that I have now about what I was going through spiritually and energetically, even though I wasn't consciously aware of it then, I now have a different perspective. I now think, girl, you went through that and you managed to make something beautiful out of that chaos and out of that mess. You learned how to be strong. If it wasn't for my child having that type of diagnosis, I would have never learned how to develop a voice to advocate for him and how to advocate for other families. If it wasn't for the breakdown of my marriage, I wouldn't know how to support other women when they're going through breakups. If it wasn't for this time period where I had to decide that I no longer wanted to be a mother and what that meant and how it was devastating, I probably wouldn't be a birth doula now and appreciate motherhood in the way that I appreciate it. I have a different, more mature perspective. The perspective that I used to have was much more childlike, which is why this inner child healing is essential for all of us to do so that we can see things differently from our past, so that our future looks very different, and so that our present is a lot more peaceful and a lot more free. I had no idea the foundation that was being built in this short span of time. All of the things that were going on. Like, I'm thinking about not just the year 2000, 2001, 2, 3. It was, whew, there was some serious, serious stuff going on in my life. I can look back at it differently now. And hopefully the same is true for you. And so, what do you do with that info? Now that you have this info, now that you've gone back and you know what was going on for you during that time period, 27 to 30, and you're like, oh my gosh, the bottom fell out. When I first heard about Saturn Return and I started to process the information, the individual that was telling me about it, she's like, "You look like you just turned white." I said, "I'm thinking about all of the things that I went through in my late 20s and early 30s, and it makes sense. I am so grateful that the things that I experience now make sense, and that I don't have to hold those things against me or anybody else." Hey, my love. Crazy years, right? I mean, thank goodness we made it over. Thank goodness we are on the other side and we can talk about it. But how are you talking about it? If I were to sit with you, or anyone were to sit with you and to ask you, what was life for you, like for you when you were 27, 28, 29, 30? Are you going to tell a horror story? Or can you tell it from a different perspective that says, I got some wisdom? That's what I was doing in my 20s. I was gaining wisdom, you know, and hopefully it can also support other people who are experiencing. On Sunday, I talked about how those of us of a particular age need to be more gentle with those in the younger generation who may be experiencing these changes, who may be experiencing, like I said, I've got two daughters who are going through their Saturn return right now. I got to be gentle with them. I have to be patient with them. I can't talk to them as if, they're supposed to know particular things, because their entire lives might be in an upheaval. I may not see it, but they may be feeling it. And I don't want to contribute to them feeling bad about themselves, because there is something going on in their life that in the long run is going to be for their higher good. We can't see it when we're in it, but when we come out of it, we're like, thank God I made it out. And thank God that I can tell it from a position of wisdom instead of a position of pain and suffering. I've already suffered through it. I don't want to suffer through it again. So when I'm telling the story, I'm going to tell it from a position of love and wisdom. Listen, mothers, have patience with your daughters. Have patience with your daughters. Here's another tidbit that I discovered in my research about the Saturn return. If you are a night baby, meaning if you were born at night, you're going to have it even harder. Now, I can't speak to why that is, but everything that I have read has said because of where the planet is positioned in terms of its relationship with the sun. And here we are on Earth. For those of you born at night that are calculating your Saturn return, you probably had it harder than most. You probably had it more difficult. So, yeah, we got to give grace to these babies, these 27 to 30-year-old babies, and even beyond, because some people will go through their Saturn return and it creates damage that may not be repairable or as easy as we think. And I don't want anyone to think that, okay, now that I'm 30, I'm out of it and everything is good and gravy. It may take years for you to restore yourself from the things that you went through. I'm 52, and I feel like I'm still healing things from my 20s and my 30s. Oh, my dear. So, when you talked about the crazy years, hopefully that gives you some more perspective and information on why it may have been so challenging. It wasn't you. It was not you. You were not crazy. You were not whatever they said that you were. You were experiencing life in the way that you needed to experience for your greater good. If you can see it that way now, hopefully you can share that with the ones that you love that might be going through that right now. If nothing else, I hope this information frees you from a belief that there was something wrong with you. I talk about this all the time. If you are trying to do any kind of healing, you're going to have to give up the story that makes you out to be a victim, a villain, a bad girl, a bad guy. You were this, that, whatever you were doing, whatever you were experiencing, whatever you were going through. Remember, I said earlier, inner child healing and looking at your inner child healing is not about you proving that you had a horrible childhood or that you were, or you got the short end of the stick. It's for you to say, there were particular things going on in my life at that time that I did not have the experience and wisdom to deal with in a way that was for my good. But now that I know better, I can see it differently. I can hold the energy differently. I can release myself from the burden of thinking, well, if I didn't mess up in my 20s or my 30s, then my 40s and 50s wouldn't look the way that they are looking. That's not going to serve you any purpose to do that. What kind of healing is that if you're just pouring the poison back into the wound? Natasha says, you walked away from a toxic relationship after 10, ooh, girl, went celibate because you had to face your low self-worth and how that was affecting your choices. And never at any other period in your life, unless you're getting toward the end of the life and other people are making choices for you, will the choices that you make have a great impact for the long haul. The things that we did in our 20s, we might still be experiencing some after effects because we chose to do things a particular way. But if you are still holding on to a belief that you messed up, that you wasted your years, that, life is over because you didn't do what everybody else was doing, you're not going to be able to heal. It literally is like pouring poison back into an open wound. If you want to heal that wound, you have to do some particular things to do that. Be gentle with your history. And what I mean by that is, be gentle with the you used to be so that you can become the version that you desire to be now. Be gentle with your history. None of this shadow work that we're doing, this inner child work, it's not easy. If you are brave enough to do it, to go back and to look at the pain, to look at the hurt, to look at the circumstances, the experiences, even if you go all the way back to your early childhood, it is not for you to continuously beat yourself up. It is not for you to say, well, the coulda, shoulda, woulda. I could have done this. I should have done that. I would have done this. You don't know that if you coulda, shoulda, woulda, that things would have turned out differently, better, or worse. Miss Kira says she's been talking to your inner child around. Girl. Whew. I talk to her often. I had to talk to her today. When I felt some anger rising up in my spirit, I know my anger is my teenage anger, and she's a piece of work. And I felt that today. And current Yolanda, 52-year-old Yolanda, had to be gentle, extremely gentle, and say, you don't want to do that. You don't want to go off. Nobody is hurting you. No one is harming you, even though it may feel like that. That's not true. You are in total control of your emotions. You are in total control of your behavior. No one told 16-year-old Yolanda how to do that. So she was off to the races. I'm so grateful. Like you said, Sabby, what was the need? I needed to be seen. I needed to be heard. I needed to be believed. I needed to be supported. I needed someone to pay attention to me. I didn't know how to ask for that when I was 16. I didn't know how to ask for it when I was 10. I know how to ask for it now at 52, and I'm still learning. And so, yeah, we can talk to our inner children all the time. Wake up in the morning and say, 10-year-old Yolanda, what do you need? What can I give you that you believe that you didn't get when you needed it? I can give it to you now because I have this wisdom and this experience and this maturity. And I've been exposed to things that you were not exposed to. You didn't get what you needed when you were 10, but I can give it to you now. And so when we look at our 20s and all the chaos that may have been going on. And remember, when we're transitioning from our teenage years to our 20s, there is a huge expectation that we have things figured out. So many of my friends right now are sending their babies off to college, and I know that you're fearful for them. You've done the work, you've poured into them, but now it's all up to them to figure out and make these choices and navigate life. It is a scary time. Are they ready? Probably not. Are they prepared? Probably not. But just like someone, throwing an individual into the water to see if they're going to sink or swim, that's pretty much what they're going to be going through. And so if you have that experience from your 20s, be gentle with yourself now and be gentle with the ones that are experiencing it now. So be gentle with your history. Don't pull out all of the memories from the past so you can beat yourself up again. You done been through the pain. Now it's time for some healing. Now it's time for you to ask your 20-year-old, what did you need that you didn't get? Or what do you need that you were looking for other people to give you and you never found it? And so for many of us, we might be in our 30s, 40s, and 50s still looking for it because we didn't get it when we need it and we still want it. The want doesn't go away. But hopefully, with some wisdom and some life experience, you understand that you can create more for yourself. We didn't know that when we were 20. We didn't know that when we were 30, that a lot of the things that we needed, we can create for ourselves. So much about this developmental stage 21 to 35 is about external relationships. We talked a lot about intimacy on Sunday. Nobody showed us how to be intimate with ourselves, intimate with other people. And so we're looking in our 20s, we were looking for other people to give us things: security, care, affection, recognition, responsibility. We're looking for people to share that with. But if no one showed you how to do it, you got to figure it out on your own. You are bound to make some mistakes. Hey, Miss Marissa. Yeah, we were late today, but we're here, honey. And so being gentle with your history has to be a part of your healing work. But you have to tell the truth. So when I say be gentle with your history, I don't mean tell the story where you don't take accountability and responsibility. Take the accountability for what you did, but do it in a way where you're not punishing yourself, you're not further harming or re-traumatizing yourself. Healing work is not about re-traumatizing yourself. You've already gone through the trauma. Now you are attempting to clean it up, to heal it, to soothe it. Be gentle with your history. Another thing that we can do and we must do, you better be seriously committed to your healing work. Many of us think that the next favorite thing or the next fad that comes along, so many people are talking about different things that help with healing, whether it's talk therapy, whether it's meditation, whether it's anything that you read about, be committed to it. Because if you get into a cycle of, okay, I'm going to do some shadow work, I'm going to do some inner child work, and it gets difficult, and then you quit, you are re traumatizing yourself. You are doing the thing that was done to you in your 20s. How many of us even knew what commitment looked like when we were 20? We might have been very selective with our commitment. I'm going to try it until it gets hard. That's not commitment. Or I'm going to try it until I find something better. Or I'm going to try it until I don't want to do it anymore. That's not commitment. Healing work, you need to be committed. And what that means is committed and consistent in doing it with intention. Not because everybody else is talking about it, not because Yolanda keeps coming on the YouTube every Sunday. Commit to your healing every single day. And it doesn't have to be 20 million things that you're doing. It really can be, as Kira said, ask your inner child what they need. Start to recognize your behavior and what it looks like. Are you responding or reacting to things like an 8-year-old? Are you having adult tantrums? And if you are, then it's probably not present day you. It's you from the past. It's your inner children who are saying, hey, I don't feel safe. I don't feel respected. I don't feel loved. Whatever it is for you, you have to be seriously committed, because the last thing you want to do is start doing this inner child healing work and then leave yourself just like you may have been left in the past. If you've ever had somebody walk out on you in the midst of some chaos in your life, you know what that feels like. Don't do it to yourself. Please do not do that to yourself. It is absolutely serious. Because who wants to be the toxic person in their own life that isn't staying and committed and consistent and focused and intentional? So we're going to be gentle with ourselves, but we're also going to be committed, and be committed to tell the truth. And not the truth that makes you comfortable, but the truth with facts, not the truth that makes somebody else look like the bad guy, the truth about how you feel. If there is some guilt, some shame, some embarrassment, talk about it. Tell the truth about it. And it doesn't mean that you have to broadcast it to everyone else. Hopefully, we have learned how to create safe spaces and people that we feel safe with, people that we feel connected with, and say, listen, I've got something that, I've been holding all by myself and I don't want to hold this thing. Do you have the capacity to hear what it is that I have to say? And I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm not asking you to do anything with it. I'm just asking you to listen. I'm really embarrassed by something that happened in my 20s, and I think it's still affecting me. Have a conversation with people that you can have an enlightened conversation with. This isn't about, let me show you how bad my life is so you can see why I am. It's let me practice being vulnerable. Let me practice what intimacy looks like. Tell yourself the truth first. Be committed to telling the truth, even if it's funky, nasty, and it makes you cry. Because if it stays in here, it's going to affect everything. And one of the other things that I think we all need to really, really do for ourselves before we start giving it out to everyone else is forgive, forgive, forgive. You have to forgive yourself. One of the most healing exercises you can go through is to write down some of the things that you believe that you did that were a mistake, that were wrong in this time period of your life, and forgive yourself for it. Forgive yourself for not knowing any better. Forgive yourself for thinking things were going to be different. Forgive yourself for giving people chance after chance after chance after chance because you know what it feels like when other people give up on you. Forgive yourself for things that you've said, things that you've done, things that you didn't say. There are many of us carrying the burden of, I wish I had said something. I wish I had done something. I wish I didn't go to a particular place, or I wish I had. Forgive yourself in a radical way where you are willing to wash away the way you think about those things from your past. So you're no longer embarrassed. You no longer carry guilt, regret. Whew, the regret of my 20s. I'm so grateful that I have gotten to a point where I don't let regret hang out with me. I did what I did. I did what I thought was best. It probably wasn't, but here I am, still thriving, still living, and with a whole lot of wisdom that I can use to share with other people. And I love it when people share their wisdom with me. Natasha, you talking about walking away from a 10-year relationship? There might be someone right now who is in a relationship that they know they need to walk away from. And here you are sharing and talking about how you did that and how you had to build your self esteem back up and your self worth. Someone, doesn't matter how old you are, may need that information so that they feel like maybe I can do it too. I'm telling you, when I calculated my dates, I'm like, yeah, that lines up. I knew that my marriage was falling apart, but was I doing anything about it? Nope. I was just waiting and hoping and praying that it got better, waiting, hoping and praying it got better. And as I waited, hoped, and prayed that it got better, it got worse and worse and worse and worse till it got to the point where I was saving myself instead of walking away. And oh my goodness, the buildup from that, you feel guilty. You feel like I stayed in that thing way too long. What's wrong with me? You feel stupid. It can take years to heal those kind of wounds. And one of the ways that you can do that is by forgiving yourself. I have to forgive 29-year-old Yolanda because she knew what she knew at that time. And even if other people were saying things, I had to experience it for myself so that I would gain the wisdom, so that I would gain the knowledge. And it feels like I'm watching myself all over again when I look at my daughters. You know, I can offer up wisdom, I can offer up things, but they have to experience it themselves. So give them grace, have patience for yourself, because it's difficult to watch people go through chaos when you want to save them because you know what it feels like. You know what you've been through yourself, and you don't want the people that you love to have to go through that. My love says she knows what it's like to be stuck and afraid to leave, scared to stay. Woo! Right. Waiting for the other person. And not that it's going to make it easier on you. It's just so frightening, particularly when your finances are tied up in that thing. You know, we talk a lot about leaving jobs, leaving relationships. And I talked on Sunday about taking a risk. Just breathing right now is a risk. Imagine if you had to live with the heaviness in your heart that you are in something that you know you're not supposed to be in, but you don't feel like you have the resources to walk away and to say, I deserve better. And sometimes we know we deserve better. We know it, we feel it, it's in every fiber of our being. But there is also that feeling and that knowledge of, I don't want to do to another person what was done to me. I don't want to be the one to walk away. I don't want to be the bad guy. You know, I think about that song by Chrisette Michelle, Blame It On Me. I got to a point where I was like, I'll be the villain if that's the way you want to tell it, because I got to save myself. But it took a long time to get to that point. A long, long time to get to that point. It's like sitting in the car, don't want to go in the house, but you don't want to go back to where you just came from. You don't really even know where to go. It's like, I know when I go in here, it's going to be some mess. And I wish, I hoped, and I pray that at some point someone makes a decision. Again, not because it's easier for you, but you know what it feels like. And that's that kind heart. And as my mother said, that you got a kind heart and a hard head. You know what you're supposed to do, but you just won't do it because, yeah, I know what it feels like to be abandoned. I know what it feels like to be neglected. And I don't want to create that for somebody else. But baby, at 52, I know to save myself. I didn't know that at 29. I didn't know that at 30. I literally had to wait till the bottom fell out until it got really, really bad before I was like, there's nothing even to hold on to. There's nothing to stitch together. I just got to get out of here. And I thank God that I managed to get out, which is why we talk about older, the elders. We are the elders. We need to tell our young ladies, not that we can tell them what to do, but be honest with your experience and say, listen, I know how it feels when your heart is tethered to another person and it feels like your love is going to be able to rectify and make it all right and save the day. And love is grand and love can do those things. But you better be very clear about your definition of love. And if that thing that you're in is really love, it's not going to hurt you, harm you, or make you feel less than. We don't know that in our 20s. We just know we feel good when we feel good and we feel bad when we feel bad. Child, Having a kind heart and a hard head is a horrible combination because it will keep you stuck in things that you know you're supposed to get out. Because if you have a kind heart, you're not stupid. You got common sense and you can see what's going on. But that kind heart, it will keep you stuck. It will keep you stuck. So, one of the other things that we need to get good about if we're talking about inner child healing is identify how you learn lessons. I know I'm hard headed. I know I damn near have to be dragged down the street before I get it. And it's not because I'm not smart, it's just the way that I'm designed and the way that I'm built. I learn my lessons hard. Hard and heavy. But I like that I know how I learn my lessons. So I'm not complaining when things are right, stubborn. I didn't want to say that because I was called that a lot when I was younger, but I'm a stubborn heifer. I know I am because I want to get things right. I want to be able to solve the problem. I want to be able to make it better. I want to say that I did not walk away until every I was dotted and every T was crossed. Like I am not going to run until I say I'm ready to run. And that has gotten me knocked upside my head, literally and figuratively, a lot of times. But that's the way that I learn my lessons. Am I working to make that different? Absolutely. I'm not as hard headed as I used to be. I am not as hard headed as I used to be. But I also know that if I'm going to stay in something, I'm going to learn something while I'm here. So that when I'm ready to walk away, when I'm ready to let go, I have a whole lot of wisdom. I have a different perspective. Like when I came on earlier, I said today was rough. Today was rough. And there were a couple of times where I could have said no, I could have walked away, I could have spoken up, but I wanted to see something. I wanted to see how I was going to react. I wanted to see if old Yolanda was going to show up and get frustrated and start yelling and start, doing the silent treatment. She didn't. I'm very proud of myself. She held it together. Yeah, sometimes the fight that we have is not with other people, it's with ourselves. But if that is the way that you learn your life lessons, if that's the way that you learned your life lessons when you were in your 20s and 30s, it might still be going on. The time period might be shorter. I'm not as hard headed as I used to be, but it's still there. I still like to see what's going to happen. I still like to see, can I change this thing on my own? But I can absolutely tell you when I start to feel out of balance, I give it up. I'm not fighting anyone, you know. I don't have fight in me anymore at any point in my life and I'm so grateful. I said the other day, I don't argue with anyone. I have disagreements. Trust me, I have disagreements. But those anger filled arguments that I used to have, I don't have those anymore. That's old Yolanda. And I'm grateful that I'm learning that my process is I need to see it, I need to hear it, I need to feel it before I can even really tell you what it is, before I can even express. My beloved and I, we go through it. I'm grateful we don't scream at one another, we don't call each other out of our name. We are learning how to have clarifying conversations. And it's so different than when I was in my 20s. I will admit to being a foul mouth emasculator. Like I was going to go for the jugular and it could be over something simple. If I felt disrespected, if I felt hurt, if I felt a tinge of someone hurting or harming me, there he is. It was off to the races. I'm going to cut you at your throat. I'm going to say something that hurts you. That was me in my 20s. And I will fully admit to starting a lot of arguments, picking at people. Sometimes, even with my children, I would give them the silent treatment sometimes because I knew it bothered them. Whew. It is tough being adult when you still want to act like a child And when you still have childlike behaviors, and that's why I said inner child healing is not about what happened when you were a little, just about what happened when you were a little kid. I'm a child today. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring me. And I'm going to face a lot of the things and experiences tomorrow and the rest of this week as a child without knowing. And I'm going to have to figure it out. That is why I heal my inner children. So 18-year-old Yolanda is not making decisions for 52-year-old Yolanda. Razor razor tongue. Now, when I feel disrespected, I stop and pause, and I have to ask myself, have you really been disrespected? Or are you unclear about what the other person is communicating to you? Is this worthy of a fight? Or is this something that just with a conversation can be cleared up? You don't have to go to 0 to 100. Stay at 0, take a deep breath, and see things for what they are. Look at him. I love you too, my love. Baby, I know your mouth. I know it. If you are the type and I was the type, I would be cussing and crying at the same time. One of those people that fight and cry. You're like, why is she crying if she's, scrapping and scratching? Because you're hurt. And as I said before, anger is just sadness on fire. It's the same emotion because somebody touched a nerve that wasn't healed. And there's some sadness there. But I'm not going to let you see the sadness. It's going to come out like fire. I'm so grateful I've been delivered from that and that my mouth is so sweet and so kind. And if it feels like it's not going to be, then I pause. And I had to do a lot of that today. Just pause, just breathe, because it's not necessary to create a problem where there may not be a problem. Learning how to not take things personally, and something else might be going on that I'm unaware of. I don't even really need to know what it is. I know it's not going to affect me. I'm so proud of myself that I did not go off today, because that is typical of me in the past. Nobody told me when I was 29 that my mouth was nasty. I thought that's how you had, I thought that's how you had conversations as an adult because that's what I saw, you know? That's what I saw in my household. People didn't have clarifying conversations where everyone was talking calm and cool. People were on 100 about the smallest things. I thought that's the way that adults were supposed to communicate. Now I know better. Yes, ma'am. It's really sadness because a lot of our anger is tied to not being able to express our sadness when we needed to, when we were younger, because someone either didn't want to hear it, someone didn't acknowledge it. So many different reasons why our sadness turns into anger, because we're not being seen, we're not being heard, we're not being valued, we're not being loved, we're not being respected, we're constantly being disappointed. And no one tells us, how do I heal that? How do I heal that? And so, my offer to you is number one, be gentle with your history. If you know that you have to tell yourself a story or you have to revisit something from your past that's traumatic, you may not want to do it by yourself. You might want to go seek professional assistance and support because it can be rough. And having someone else listen and ask the kinds of questions that are going to guide you and direct you to a grander perspective where you are not re-traumatizing yourself, and you may be able to get to forgiveness. Self-forgiveness is so important. That anger that we just talked about, it's so important to get to a point where you can forgive yourself for that, but by telling the truth and say, baby, you really sad. This is sadness that never got acknowledged, that never got healed. I said to my beloved the other day, how are we going to be able to heal things from people who will never acknowledge what they did, what they said, and don't even think they did anything wrong? We've got to figure that out for ourselves, because a lot of us, as we are maturing, the story starts to change, the people start to forget, or they want to rewrite history and say it didn't happen that way. You know how it felt to you. You've got to figure out, to how do you forgive yourself, because you may never get an apology, you may never get an acknowledgement, you may never get the support that you are looking for from the other party or people who may have been there when it happened. You got to heal that for yourself. My love says when she was in a Saturn Return dealing with grief, whew, let me tell you, as I'm driving home today, I started to think about my experience with grief. Because I think, and I honestly feel that what I saw today in other people was grief, unhealed, unrecognized, unexpressed grief. And so I gave a lot of grace today because I could see it. You know, sometimes you can see the heaviness on people. You ask them a question and they're very short with their answer, or just their energy is off. And I think that we are all experiencing unexpressed grief. Why do I always make you cry? Because that's what I do, baby. But your tears, whew, let me tell you, a lot of the clients that I deal with or have dealt with, one of the questions that I ask them is, when's the last time you cry? And I don't mean cry from a point of I'm hurt and I'm not, you know, I'm not getting what I need. I mean from a point of I am sad and nobody knows it. No one can see it. I think that is one of the hardest things about unexpressed grief, that we get to a point where we hide it so well that other people don't see it, but you feel it. And to know that you are connected with people and they can't see your sadness, it hurts. It will make you feel like a 5-year-old who is getting ignored. It will make you feel like a baby in a crib who isn't being picked up when they are crying. You can feel like that at 50 and at 60. When you have unexpressed grief, sadness, anger, whatever the emotion is for you, and other people don't see it, recognize it, or acknowledge it. Or if you do express it, it's not supported. Oh, get over it. It happened so long ago. What are you even talking about? It's almost like it hurts you twice. And so the grief and the sadness that we collectively have not been able to express, when I think about 29-year-old how sad she was. I remember one day walking out of my house and my neighbor called me on the phone and she said to me, every time I see you, your head is down and you look so sad. What is going on? And that was the first time that somebody acknowledged what was going on with me. I hadn't even acknowledged it myself. And I know that we all see and experience people who look like they just got a hard way to go. Like it's just a struggle to put a smile on their face. But the flip side of that is those of us who are walking around smiling, knowing that we are in pain inside. We have to start to create more safe spaces for ourselves. And when I talked on Sunday about intimacy, that is the part of intimacy. I'm not talking about the physicality. I'm talking about you being so intimate with yourself that you are willing to allow yourself to feel whatever you need to feel, express whatever you need to express, cry when you need to cry, and acknowledge that you have some unhealed grief in your life. And so I'm driving home today and I'm thinking about other people's grief, which of course made me start to think about my own. And I'm grateful that I can talk about it from a perspective of I know it takes a lot of work for me to be who I am now, based upon what I've experienced in my life. It takes a lot of work to be kind, to be peaceful, to be loving, to do this work. I'm grateful for it. It saved my life. Because there are times when I think about my grief and how profound it is, and I'm in wonder of how I'm able to get up in the morning and do what I need to do. And I know it's because love saved me, but I had to let love save me. I didn't even know that love was present, that it was there, because I thought It was fake, it was phony, it wasn't going to last. It needed something that I didn't want to provide, but I had to do that for myself. And you, my dear, are also amazing. And you are part of my love story. My beloved and I, we have been talking about our love story and how we're going to document it because I believe it to be the pinnacle of my healing process. I would not be able to love this man the way that I love this man if I did not love myself and do this healing that I needed to do. I wouldn't have been able to do it. And I'm grateful for him. I'm grateful that he is patient. As I do my work and he does his work, we are patient. We are learning to be patient with one another because we didn't get that when we were younger. We both recognize the things that we did not get when we were younger, how we give it to ourselves, and how we can support one another through that. And there's still a lot of work to do, and you have to be willing. And so I hope that this information, I really want y'all to look at that age range, 27 to 30. What was going on for you? What did you need that you didn't get? And did you even know that you needed it? What didn't you get to express then that you are willing to express now? And how are you going to love yourself through it? Are you still waiting for other people to do that work for you? It's not their responsibility. We all have to be accountable for our own healing. We can support one another. And I damn sure don't want nobody impacting my healing. Please don't do that. But I'm not making anyone responsible for my healing. And I acknowledge that it continues. I'm going to be like a 5-year-old tomorrow in some capacity. Something's going to happen. Maybe somebody's going to cut me off on the road and I'm going to get ready to want to have a tantrum. And you did something to me. And hopefully 52-year-old Yolanda comes through and say, did they hit you? Are you still alive? Then be grateful and let it go. You don't have to revert back to that pain, that anger, that sadness in this instance, in this moment. I am so grateful for 29-year-old Yolanda and everything that she had to go through. And that is also a practice that we can offer ourselves. Sit with your 29-year-old, your 27-year-old, and say, I'm giving you an opportunity to express what you needed to express. And I'm giving you an opportunity to forgive yourself. Don't carry that burden of what happened when you were younger and tell yourself this story that, if I had done things differently, if you had done anything differently, you wouldn't be the beautiful human that you are right now. And we probably wouldn't be having this moment. I no longer have regret because I know if anything in my life had happened differently, I would be different. Don't know if I would be better off. Don't know if I would be worse, but I wouldn't be what I am now. And I think I'm pretty damn good. My beloved says, I love you, David Harris. I would love to hear what your meditation moment is about, and how this information is supporting you and helping you in that. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here for on this planet in this moment in time. And right now, with all these planets in retrograde and all this stuff that's going on, stuff is coming to the surface to be healed. So if you feel right now like things are chaotic for you, it's something coming to the surface so it can be healed. Let it come up. Tell the truth about it. Be gentle with it. Be gentle with yourself. Be gentle with other people because we are all experiencing some grief in some shape and form. I'm telling you, people are not out there to make your life horrible. People are trying to heal and maybe they don't know how. But maybe if we start to have more of these types of discussions, we can recognize and support one another. Be committed to what it is you say you want. If you really want to heal, if you really want to move differently, hold the energy in your body differently, then be committed to it. Don't play around with it. Be serious and be intentional. Create a spiritual practice that supports you, that looks like what you think it needs to look like. Not what I tell you, not what somebody else tells you, but you better do something. Kira says she's going to meditate. Have something that sustains you so that when things are falling apart, you have something to stand on. Surround yourself with people who support your healing. If you've got toxic friends, toxic family members, you can say, "Excuse me, I'm in the middle of a healing process and I really can't get into this kind of, interactions with you. I love you, but I don't love your behavior and it's impacting my healing process." We have to get to a point where we are adult and mature enough to say what we're going through and what supports us and ask for what it is that you need for your healing process. Nobody told us how to do that in our 20s and our 30s. We just let people do whatever the hell they wanted to do, say whatever they wanted to say, and we didn't know how to disengage. We know now how to speak up and to say, you know what, that's not really for me right now. I'm in the middle of a healing process that I am committed to, and I have to be consistent and make sure that you are forgiving yourself. And so before we go, how about we do a short meditation on forgiveness? I'm not sure or certain what you have to forgive yourself for. I know what I need to forgive myself for, and I'm willing to share what some of those things are because maybe it's true for you. And so, wherever you are, take some deep breaths, get into a comfortable position as possible as you can. And if you can't do it right now, then maybe do it later or come back and watch this later. And as we are taking deep breaths and entering into the energy of forgiveness, what does that mean? It means that I'm going to give myself something to free myself. I'm going to give myself something to be at peace. I'm going to give my mind, I'm going to give my spirit, I'm going to give my body what it needs to relax and to be restored to a place of sacredness. Because I don't want any negativity within my mind, within my body, within my spirit impacting the healing work that I am doing. And I know that some of that healing work must include forgiveness, self forgiveness. I know that I have to tell the truth about my behavior, either present day, past, and maybe even in the future. And I know that my behavior is connected to my thoughts, my feelings, some of them that are unresolved. And so in this right now moment, I forgive myself for the things that are hidden in my consciousness that I'm not aware of, that are causing me to make choices that are not aligned with the me that I desire to be. I am offering myself forgiveness for those things in the past that I thought were the best thing for me. I'm forgiving myself for those emotions and feelings in the past that I wasn't mature enough to understand. I'm forgiving myself for those moments where I let somebody else dictate how I should feel about myself. I forgive myself for those moments when I didn't even know what I needed and how to ask for it. I forgive myself for those moments where I withheld love from myself because I was so busy giving it to someone else. I forgive myself, my 20-year-old self, my 30-year-old self, who stayed in experiences that hurt me, that harmed me, that may have hurt or harmed my children in ways that I don't even know about. I forgive myself for not having the strength, for not having the courage to make choices that would have placed me in a different experience. I forgive myself for expecting something different from individuals that were giving me the same thing over and over and over. I forgive myself for letting my behavior get out of control when I was angry, when I was disappointed, when I felt the pain of abandonment and neglect, and I didn't know how to express it. I forgive myself for those opportunities that were right in front of my face, but I was too afraid to say yes. And I forgive myself for those opportunities that were right in front of my face, and I was not brave enough to say no when I needed to say no. I am forgiving myself for those things in the past that still show up in present day, the reactions, the overreactions, the times when I lose my patience, my anger, because there is still something within me that needs to be healed. And the me that I am now is mature enough to say, I forgive myself for not having patience, to seek guidance, to seek wisdom when I knew better. I forgive myself for all of the times that I gave myself away so easily. Hmm. And I forgive myself for this right now moment where I may be shedding tears that are way past their expiration date, tears that should have been, could have been, and needed to be shed a very, very long time ago. I am grateful that I am in a space where I can do that for myself now. And while this day is not done, and I know that there may have been some things within this day, I am asking for forgiveness. If my awareness and my consciousness is not where I need it to be for me to acknowledge some of the things that happened today, I pray that by the end of this night and before I close my eyes to slumber, I will remember, I will become aware, and I will say what I need to say. I am forgiving myself for giving up on myself. And I'm forgiving myself from all of those moments when I didn't think I was good enough, smart enough, when I thought I did not have what I needed. I now know in this moment, nothing could be further from the truth. Whatever shame, whatever guilt, whatever regret, embarrassment is holding me back from the things that I desire, I'm going to learn to forgive myself first so that I develop the courage to take the risks that might be necessary for me to step into my own power, step into my own purpose, show up in the version that I was created and destined to be. I'm way too great to not express it. And so I forgive myself for those moments when I forget that. It's so easy to forget that. And may I always surround myself with individuals who will remind me that I am part of, an important, essential part of, a collective consciousness that needs my greatness. And may I get to a point where the things from the past are not impacting my present and my future. Because that's what healing looks like. And I'm grateful for all of the experiences that my inner children have had to deal with, but I am in full control now, and I'm going to reparent in those places where it's needed and necessary. I'm going to give myself every single thing that I believe that I need because I am deserving of it. And it is available in abundance for me. We don't live in lack. We create lack, but we don't live in lack. We live in abundance. And I trust and pray that there is an abundance of love and safety and honor and security and commitment and all of those good things that are going to support us. I hope you did your calculation. I hope it has given you some insight into what was going on, what might still be going on, and that we can prepare for that second Saturn return because it's coming. It's coming. I am so grateful for y'all, the patience that y'all have exercised tonight with me coming on late. But I said I was going to be gentle with myself today. And so I took my time where I needed to take my time. And I'm so grateful that I am surrounded by individuals who are so forgiving and giving. Next Sunday, we'll still be in this developmental stage, 21 to 35. If there are any additional questions that you have about your Saturn return, we can talk about it on Sunday. For those of you who may not be aware, I am in the process of transitioning out of Evolving Spirit Wellness. And so that's another reason why I'm being gentle with myself. And I thank you for also being gentle with me. If you notice, there's no more website, no more contact information, because we are transitioning in the sweetest way we can possible. I'm so glad because let me tell you how the Creator uses each and every single one of us. I have gotten to a point when I know that I need something, it comes. And you have been a part of that in so many ways in my life that I might need to hear something, see something, and you pop up or someone else will pop up. And I know that that is, the spirit moving in the way that spirit is designed to move. And that is because we are open and willing and allowing the spirit to do that. So thank you, my love, for that. Thank you, my beloved. I'm really feeling some kind of way because I didn't get to see my man today, but I'm going to see my man tomorrow. And I'm just grateful that I have someone in my life that keeps me grounded and centered. I mean, I do the hard work and he keeps me, supported. Um, and that's one of my favorite things that he says to me. How can I support you? I'm here to support you. I love that man. Okay, my loves, I will see you guys on Sunday at 1 p.m. if you so choose, or you can go on YouTube and look at the replay. I thank you for your time this evening. Be gentle. Please, please, please be gentle with yourself. Um, do your calculations. See when your Saturn return started, and I'm telling you, you're gonna be like, what? What? I know exactly what was going on during that time. Hi, my love. You are so welcome. And maybe this will unlock some answers for you, but not in a way for you to feel bad about yourself. We don't do that. We don't do that anymore. We are uplifting, we are supporting, we are taking all of this information to support our healing. And that is a good thing. That is a great thing. That is a wonderful thing. And I am so grateful to be able to facilitate that for you and with you because you do it for me as well. I love you. I love you. I love you. Have an amazing rest of your evening, and I will see y'all on Sunday.